Okay, so we're going to jump into the pre-qualification part of the listing presentation. We know that most of this is discovery based, right? It's asking the right questions, getting the right information, so we know how to tailor the presentation. So we're going to do just kind of a quick role play on the pre-qualification to kickstart it. After that, we're going to do an overview again of everything, but we're going to spend time specifically getting into the 4 pillars, and that's something specifically we teach here at Everest, that we know everything with the listing revolves around the 4 pillars. We're going to also talk about the market, go over the Flex Market Summary Report, the most recent one from Camarillo. We're going to talk about the market cycles. If we have time, we're also going to get into the pricing strategy. I pre-printed one of my recent CMAs that I used for 881 Miller Court. So I'm going to print that out, go over some of the things that we talked about. We're going to also discuss future pacing in the pricing strategy with intelligent pricing. Okay. If we also have time, we're going to touch on the ultimate close. So we're going to cover as much as we can. I do like this to be interactive as much as we can as well. So even if you're online and you guys want to hop on, please do. We're recording these too, so we should have the recording of it afterwards, and should be able to share the link. So if any of you want to rewatch it afterwards, we have that too. So before getting started, is there anything specifically that anybody's gone over in a listing presentation that they want to make sure we either touch on today, or if we need to continue this next Monday? So anything specifically that you would like to focus on today to get a little bit more information on? I know we talked just briefly, right? We talked a little bit about closing, just some different ideas with closing. Any other things that you can think of, Nina, specifically that would be helpful, just in terms of practicing or going over today for the listing presentation? Anything specific that comes to you? Nothing right now?
No.
Okay. Anybody online? You guys got anything for the listing presentation you want to touch on? Yes.
I got
Okay.
getting the house ready.
Getting the house ready?
It's ready.
Okay.
How do you
So
question
if
that?
the house isn't ready, right? Okay. So house isn't ready. How do we get it ready?
Mhm. Like what questions to ask, if
Okay.
to fill them out, if they're willing to do anything, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah, no, that's a great one. So what questions to ask? So if the house isn't in ready condition, you see the property, you know that it needs to be in better condition before it hits the market. What are some different ways we can approach that? So that's an important one. Any other things? Good morning. Come on in.
Oh, Yvette's coming too.
What's that?
Yvette.
Yvette's coming too? Cool. I'll pull another chair out. All right.
Like, he wasn't working in the other door because I think someone did the wall.
Okay, so anything else other than the house not being ready? Any other questions, objections, situations that you guys want to go over? Okay, well, let's jump into it. So to start off, the very first part, and I already gave it away, but when does the listing presentation start? When does it officially start that you know you're actually in the presentation?
maybe after
After
the
your
walkthrough?
pre-qual.
After the walkthrough, what was it?
After the pre-qualified.
During the pre-qual, okay? So your listing presentation starts, it's actually your very first interaction with your prospect. So if you're given a referral, if you're door knocking and they say they're interested in possibly selling their home, within the first 15 to 30 seconds, they're already sizing you up. They're already looking at how you're dressed, how confident is your tone. When you walk into that meeting or that presentation, they're picking up on these things. So that's where we really focus on tonality, understanding what personality style, like we talked about in that last morning ascent, where we went over different personality styles to recognize who we're communicating to, because we need to make sure that we're doing the 3 C's. What are the 3 C's in every single presentation? So every phone call, every interaction with a prospect, every interaction with a client, when you're listing presentation, what are those 3 C's? You're gonna get tested a bunch today, so I wanna see who's been taking notes and listening on our previous conversations. See somebody's audio connecting, that's Iris.
Connect, create value, and close.
All right, awesome. So we got Nicole over here, starting off with a bang with connect, create value, and close. Okay? So how do we connect? What are some things we do to connect with somebody? What are different ways of connecting? Okay, so when we connect, what are we doing? What are we consciously doing?
Repeat.
We're asking questions. What else?
Repeat and affirm.
We repeat and affirm, we discover, right? This is all part of the connection process. So every single phone call that we make while we're prospecting is our first goal is to connect. Okay? That tension is high. You keep hearing me refer to the relationship tension is up. The trust isn't there yet. We have to lower that relationship tension before we can move to task tension. Task tension is good. That's lighting the fire under their butt to make them do something, right? Because a lot of times if we see the house isn't ready, so getting back to that question, we got one of two ways we can approach it. One, we can overcome what does every typical buyer or seller do? What prevents them from accomplishing their goals? What's a natural tendency for a buyer and a seller?
Money, maybe?
Procrastination, right?
Yeah.
They hesitate. They procrastinate. They want to think about it. They need some time to think about it. We need to fix this. We need to get some other quotes, right? We need to, there's always an excuse. Those are the objections that come up that we want to be better as leaders. Our goal and our job is to cut off that procrastination. So where we get stuck is if we go into a presentation and they're motivated to sell, but the house isn't in the greatest condition. So what do we do in that situation? Do we try to cut off their procrastination and hurry up and list the home in its current condition? Or do we make sure that they do these certain things, fix the home up, understand the expectations we have as listing agents with the clients that we represent, that the house has to show well, it's got to be in ready condition, and they have to make it available. Okay, that's in the part of the expectations that we're going to jump into. So, great job on the connection piece. We create value by also doing the same things through discovery, by showing that we're the market expert, that also by showing that we're listening. Okay, we actually ask them the questions. There's time and time again that you'll go on listing presentations up against agents who got great reputations, who do a lot of business, right? And you'll take that listing over them because you actually ask them the question, what do you want to do? Like, what are you trying to accomplish with the sale of the home? Ask them that question. Start off with something like that. So, what is it that you want to ultimately accomplish with the sale of your home? What are your expectations in the agent that you look to hire? And some of these questions could be asked in the pre-qual. Even if I ask it in the pre-qual, I'm always going to ask it in person, even if I already heard it. And what's interesting is that answer will change. The first time they talk to you, and I'm going to keep referring to this 881 Miller situation. The first time I spoke to them, they were referred to me, they thought I was somebody else to begin with, which was interesting. It was like a social media referral. And so when she calls up, she's like, oh, I got your name from so-and-so. And, I heard that I need to reach out to you thinking about selling my home. I said, that's great. I didn't recognize the name she talked about, but I'm not going to say, oh, I don't know who you're talking about. I said, all right, tell me a little bit more about the property. So I jumped straight into discovery because she's calling me. She's asking me, can you come by check my house out? I set the appointment up. She said Thursday at 4 o'clock. So I set the appointment right away. So after the appointment's set, now I jump into pre-qualification. So you could either do it on that phone call or you can do it the day before the appointment. Sometimes I do both. Sometimes I'll dig a little bit deeper the day before the appointment, okay? So that's the pre-qual. Welcome. Good morning. Okay, so in the pre-qual, the conversation can sound something like this. I'm just gonna jump into it. So Nicole, would you like to be my seller real quick?
Oh, okay.
I'll be the agent, okay? So you just play along.
Okay,
You're looking to
playing
sell
along.
your house.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever saw the Miller Court property, but just kind of a background on their situation, you can play along with it, is they were looking to move out of Ventura, to move out to Simi. They wanted to be closer to their family. They were tired of the HOAs and condo. They had a short driveway, so husband wanted a driveway. Had a really nice garage. House is nicely updated. They're gonna interview 3 agents, okay? The other 2 agents, top agent from a company that rhymes with FEMAX, okay? And then another strong agent who was also with an international company, right, that sells a lot of homes in Ojai. Average price point about 1.5 million. So 2 strong agents that I was up against. I didn't know who they were yet, okay? So that's kind of the background. And then in terms of timing, they just knew it was a good time to sell, okay? This was about 3 months ago, so this is before the market shifted, all right? So we're gonna start with that conversation. So you're calling me up, you got my name from somebody. It's actually your son-in-law gave my number to you. You think I'm a detective though, like, because her son's a detective and a part-time real estate agent.
Oh, okay, cool.
All right. This
You are
legitimately comes up, okay?
Okay.
This was a real situation, so go ahead. All right, so you're calling me up.
Okay. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Hi, is this Brandon?
Yes, this is Brandon. How can I help you?
Hi, this is Nicole.
Nicole,
I got
yes.
your phone number from my son-in-law.
Uh-huh.
He was telling me that you have a real estate license. Is that right?
I do have a real estate license,
Okay,
yes.
awesome.
How can I help you?
Well, I was looking to sell my home and look for a different property somewhere in the Ventura County area, specifically Simi Valley.
Okay, that'd be great. Well, I'd love to help you do that. When can we get together and check out your home? Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Oh, Thursday at 4 o'clock.
All right, that's okay. So Thursday at 4 o'clock, that sounds great. Well, appreciate you reaching out to me. I have a few questions for you. Do you got a couple minutes?
Sure.
Wonderful. So share with me, Nicole, what is most important to you about getting your home sold?
Well, of course, I want to get the most money for my home.
Okay, so you want to make as much as you can. You want to net the most from the sale of your home.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
My husband is looking for a longer driveway at the new home.
Okay.
So it's like one of my biggest things with getting out of this house.
Okay, so driveway is important to you.
Yes,
So you
driveway.
don't have much of a driveway where
No,
you currently at?
no.
Okay, and are you in a condo or a townhome currently? You're in a PUD.
Oh, yes.
Would they know it's a PUD?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but they wouldn't know that.
Oh,
They
okay.
they just know that there's HOAs.
Oh,
there's
yeah. Okay,
rules.
well, because
They really want to try to avoid the HOAs.
So I
in
want
the
to,
future.
HOA.
Okay.
You know, they're evil.
Yep. So that sounds great. So I go through the discovery process. I get a good idea about her house. Her house is in great shape, right? I'm asking her questions. I'm showing her that I'm listening by repeating and affirming. Okay. Good morning. Got an extra chair over here. That's okay. So it's just key that I get as much info as possible, right? And really my goal on this, I've already set the appointment. She was referred to me. So I already knew that I was going to see the place. The one interesting thing is she set it almost a week out. So the call was like on a Wednesday. I had to wait till the following Thursday at 4 because she wanted to interview multiple agents, and she was upfront about that. So I asked her the question, and this is all real situation. So what are your expectations in the agent you look to hire? All she answered was commission. That was her only response, commission. I said, okay, is there anything else? Nope, just commission. I said, okay, that sounds great, right? So what do you think I'm prepared for at that listing presentation?
Top commission.
Commission, the money is well priced, right? Because she wanted to make as much money as possible. So I wanted to do my research in terms of what the comps are going for. What do you think the biggest challenge was 3 months ago? And again, you have to know what happened 3 months ago because we got to talk about where the market's been, where it's at now, and where it's heading. So 3 months ago, what do you think the biggest challenge was? Because everybody was getting multiple offers. Interest rates were pretty good at that time, but
Yes.
now
Oh, yeah.
that's the current,
Yeah.
right?
The
The current
appraisal.
issue is interest rates. So the appraisal. So the number one challenge was the appraisal, okay? And what was cool is I actually used a situation that I had successfully closed with one of the agents here about how to overcome an appraisal, right, with somebody who had 20% down. And there was an appraisal difference about $15,000, and the only difference for the buyer was roughly how much money? Do you
It
remember?
was like $30 a month.
Yeah, it was like $30 a month or $1,500.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a $15,000 difference. So now I had what's called a soundbite. Soundbites are stories, testimonials, things that you want to share, experiences, because our job as a good real estate agent is your ability to communicate. So when you can share stories, how does that make a client feel?
You have
They
You have
fe-
experience.
that you have experience, right? That they can understand, they can visualize it, they can start seeing, okay, that makes sense. So if the biggest challenge is appraisal, and I have the solution, I have the remedy to it, I know what kind of buyers to look for, not just to take any buyer, right? This buyer had 20% down, there was a $15,000 appraisal difference, and all it cost the buyer to have the exact same payment and basically the same amount of money down was about $1,500 difference. That's it. And they were able to overcome that appraisal, which was fantastic, right? Well, what was interesting is that didn't even play a factor here because we priced it right because of the intelligent pricing strategy we're going to talk about. And what we have, because I'm going to make it relevant to what's happening today, in the market today, prices, look at this rock right here coming down, right? What typically happens is sellers want to start high. They want to start from where prices were 3 months ago, okay? So they're chasing the market down. Well, you start here, this rock continues to come down, right? So by the time you put it here, now this rock is already over here, okay? We're still behind it. So we got to get in front of where the pricing strategy's at, okay? Because by doing that, when you're competing against 10 homes at any specific price point, and I printed out the Flex Market Summary Report we're going to have to share. I've just printed 3 copies here. And this is for Camarillo. And let's just say I'm listing this home, this was a $640 list price, okay? Comps and the other 2 agents, and I asked the question, what did the other, so I was the 3rd agent to interview. I said, well, what did the other agents tell you in terms of pricing? I said, well, one said $595, maybe $605. I later found out that this agent probably didn't do a lot of research on the property. At least that's the impression the sellers got, right? The second agent said $625, on your best day, maybe $635, but there's no way you're gonna get higher than $635, okay? We already know the outcome of the story. I end up listing at $640, $639. It sells at $680,000, all cash, $40,000 higher than what anybody else would even say, right? 40 higher than what I listed it at. But again, it wasn't anything magical I did, other than knowing the market, knowing that we only had one other property that was for sale at the time. Another good agent in the industry that I've worked with in the past. So I called them up. It was a 2-bedroom unit in Ventura. It was listed at $680, and I said, hey, just checking with you. I'm sure you got multiple offers right now. You know, give me a call back when you get a chance. I just want to get a little bit of information about your property. So he calls me back and he's like, actually, we got nothing right now. So I know it's sitting at $680. So I knew $680 may be too high, right? But there's only one house, one condo on all of Ventura that's got 2 bedrooms and I have 3 bedrooms. They're on a 2nd floor. I'm on single story bottom floor, right? It's a PUD, which is called a planned unit development. The reason why that's important is it allows FHA, it allows VA, it allows any type of financing, okay? So you want a PUD. If you see a PUD, that's a good thing, okay? It allows all buyers to be able to ride on that property. So being single story in Ventura, under 700, I knew I was sitting on a gold mine, right? Knew I was sitting on a hot property. So that one open house, I only planned one open house on that Sunday. We had 28 people sign in. I had at least 5 different buyers who said they wanted to write with me directly at that open house, okay? I actually wrote with one who was all cash, and he writes the offer. He wrote a very strong offer. He came in he wasn't all cash, sorry. This buyer had like 40% down. The all cash buyer also wrote a strong offer, but was a little bit lower, was at like $665. The other buyer was at $680 that I was representing, both sides on it. I could already tell the seller went with the highest offer. I could already tell after doing the home inspections, this guy was nitpicking every single property. So my attorney hat comes on, which I'm not an attorney, but I'm already starting to think like one. And I want all of you not to act like attorneys, but pay attention to what your intuition's telling you, okay? If somebody starts questioning every little thing as they're coming through the property, and you're the buyer and seller listing agent, they may be looking to come back after you one day, okay? If they can't negotiate it in price with the seller, which these guys realized real quickly they couldn't do. One of the things that I tested them is I said, all right, well, you're gonna write $680, then you need to waive the appraisal, because they were at $665. So they wanted to go up to the $680 price. They went up to 680. I'm sorry, the cash was at 680. Doesn't matter. But I told them they need to waive the appraisal at the 680. They didn't want to do that originally because they were trying to write high
To get
in
it.
hopes that it was a low appraisal, right? So one of the detail sheets that I printed out here, and I brought this at the listing presentation. This is why the pre-qualification is so important, okay? I went to a big superstar retreat, and one of the guys who does his pre-quals, highly analytical, dry personality, spends about 30 minutes on the phone on his pre-quals. Guys has a 90% conversion ratio,
Wow.
okay? 90%. Because of all the questions he's asking. So you already have the pre-qual script here, which has 14 questions. You're gonna add to that. Like they don't have the question on here, what are your expectations with the agent that you look to hire? I picked that up from that agent from that superstar retreat. And he said, he was like, oh, you're interviewing a couple other agents. That's great. This is a very important decision. May I ask you who are the other agents? They rattled off the names and the companies. So he writes the names and the companies. That's great. This is what he said. He said, would you like a report card at the end of it, or I can bring it to our presentation and it'll show you what each of those agents has sold in comparison to what I've sold. Would you be interested in that? Now, obviously, you only want to do that if you got the better report card, right? And what was interesting is I did my research on the other two agents. The second agent blew me away in terms of sales and production, right? She sold over 30 homes last year, averaging $1.5 million per home, average sales price. So she had like 40 million in sales, right? Blew me away in terms of stats, at least there. But what did that also tell me? This is a $650,000 listing price. Her average sales price was $1.5 million.
She doesn't know that market.
It's not her
She may not
expertise.
know it. It may not be
Or
her
maybe she-
wheelhouse, right? Well, what was interesting was that was the agent that I got a text on Wednesday saying, hey, I appreciate, I'm sorry to have to do this, but I cancel our appointment because we're already going to go with another agent. Now, I had waited all week. I prepared all week. I changed my own personal plans to make sure I was at the presentation. Sounds familiar, right? Right? Welcome to real estate, right? So I did everything, but I didn't. The old me may have just left it alone and said, all right, well, I hope it all works out for you. I wish you the best, right? I hope you made the right decision. But that wasn't the me then at that situation. I was pissed. I called up and I'm just like, I said, as a professional courtesy, can you please call me back? I've spent all week preparing for you. I promise you it'll be worth your time. Please give me a call back. And, I got a few things I want to share with you. And hung up on the phone, okay? Luckily, a few minutes later, she calls me back. And she starts off by saying, she's all, well, you're a part-time agent, right? And I said, no. And then she's all, you're not a detective? And I said, no, I'm not a detective. I'm not sure where you got. She's like, but my son, and she says the son's name, you work with my son, right? I said, no, I don't work with your son, right? I heard his name and I was trying to put two and two together, so I actually looked him up on social media, and I know his wife. We went to high school together. She's like, oh, so-and-so. She's like, you know what? We did get a couple names from her too. So that must have been where we got your name. So they assumed I was a part-time agent. We're going to fire me before I was even had a chance to interview for the job, right? And luckily was able to convince her that, hey, you know what? So the question I asked is what? What do you ask if she already,
Did you sign a contract?
did you sign a contract? That's the most important question. Did you sign a listing agreement? She said no. I said, all right, well, that's great. Well, instead of meeting at 4 o'clock, now I said, well, let's meet tomorrow at 10 a.m., right? Because now I know this other agent thinks she's got it in the bag, and she's going to be following up the next day saying, hey, why haven't you signed the listing agreement? So now I'm meeting her at 10 a.m. Okay, I cut the time down. I shortened it. So I meet her at 10 a.m., meet her and her husband, and I got a bunch of information from her, but I got nothing from him. And of course, the whole time at the meeting, he's got his arms crossed. They already got their mind made up.
Yeah.
Now they're just trying to get as much free information as they can get. So I already knew commission was going to be important, at least that's what I assumed. What was interesting, being that was the only thing that came up on expectation, once I took control of the presentation and the whole conversation, we went around and we checked the place out, we walked through, it was a beautiful home. So luckily I didn't have that objection to overcome, right? It was already in great shape. But I just kept discovering, what did the other agents tell you? what did they say they would do to sell the home, right? And so the second agent, who's the top agent, says, well, I don't believe in the lockbox. I like to personally be there and sell your home to every single buyer who comes through, whether they're working with another agent or not. So just imagine that. You show up with your buyer, right? And the listing agent is trying to sell your buyer on the property. Okay, so I'm not like, that's ridiculous. But in my head, I'm thinking it, and I'm just taking notes. Because now I know how I'm going to overcome this other agent. You see what I'm saying? So I don't have to, when I get somebody to choose me, I don't need to talk bad about them.
Right.
All I need to do is ask good questions, right? Ask intelligent questions. The better questions you can ask, the deeper you can get, the harder questions you can ask, the higher probability you're going to take more and more listings. But you have to dig deep. It's not that surface answer of I just need to make as much money as I can, right? And I asked them the question as we walked through and we toured the home. What do you believe, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is the biggest challenge you're going to have to overcome in this market? Remember, they've already met with 2 agents. They were already feeling pretty confident they would get multiple offers, right? So they're like, well, appraisal. I said, bingo. Appraisal is going to be your biggest hurdle. So most people use appraisal to get you to price lower. I know in this market how we can overcome that. Can I show you how? And then that's when I brought this in. So this here is the agent detail report. On here in the private remarks, listen to what it says here. Actually, they may have changed. Oh no, it's on concessions. So on concessions, they wrote in offers to 690. Appraisal came in at 650 with Alex Herrera appraiser. Buyer and seller settled at 675. So this house wasn't a model match, but in the exact same complex. There's only 60 homes in this complex. Just sold 2 months prior, 15 days on the market, was listed at 690. They got a 690 price. They accepted it. It appraised at 650. This did all the work I needed it to do. I just highlighted it. Showed them 2.5% commission. I highlight it so they can see 2.5% commission. I showed them that they got offers at 690, but it appraised at 650. So this one's 2,096 square feet. Mine was less than 1,400 square feet. 600 square feet smaller. So if I know that they got a 650 appraisal, where's my appraisal probably coming in? Probably lower, right?
Yeah.
So I know the appraisal is going to be the biggest issue. And that's why the others were saying no more than 635. But we obviously were able to overcome that. Good morning, Laura. We got another chair in here we'll have to pull in. Okay, you're good. All right, awesome. So I knew the appraisal was going to be the biggest issue, right? And they understood it and they heard the remedy to it. So that was a big piece. It was also the discovery. At the end of it, as we started getting closer to the end of the meeting, and we talked about the market, we talked about pricing, they asked me what price. I said, you know, if it were me, I'd probably be close to 650, even though this one came in at 650, just based on the current market condition, okay? I said, but the problem, I said, I feel they left money on the table because they settled at 675, right? If you had a buyer with at least 20% down, you could have overcame that $15,000 difference. I said, if you did, and if they understood the financing side, as well as I don't believe this agent did. What was interesting enough is this agent who brought the buyer to this property also was trying to bring a buyer to my property, okay? And I already knew his game on the first one, wrote at 690, it appraised at 650, and then he settled at 675. Luckily, he didn't write an offer on mine, but I already knew what he was trying to do, and he was coming through thinking he was hot shot and had inside information, right? Well, luckily the listing agent did me a favor and wrote the whole story out on here, okay? So you want to do your research. The biggest thing is when you're competing for a property, know the model matches. Always know the highest sale in that neighborhood, in that area, because you have to anticipate that the seller knows that. If the seller doesn't know it, they're going to be grateful that you gave them that info. If they do know it and you don't know it, you're not going to get the listing. Okay? So you always have to know the highest sale in the neighborhood. If you don't have anything specifically in that tract, then you got to go out for similar size properties about a half mile out. Okay?
Can you
Yes.
do the full mile, or
You
would
can. You can,
like
depending-
if there's really nothing?
Especially for the high-end properties,
Yeah.
right, that are very unique and very specific, you gotta go out. I mean, you gotta go about a mile out, and you're just trying to pull anything an appraiser's going to. So I'll even go further than 6 months. I'll go
Yeah,
out to a
okay.
year,
That's
right?
If there's nothing.
If there's nothing. So
Yeah.
you start half-mile rate, you start in the same track if
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah.
Right.
Then after that track, if there's nothing in that track, then we're gonna extend it out to half-mile radius and try to be similar type property.
Well,
It's
what
a
if-
detached home, detached homes, condos,
Like
right?
now, like let's say you had a comp that was at 988,
Right.
and you're looking at all the pendings, and they're in like the 800s. You're like,
Right.
well, now I'm.
Well, those pendings, so, and know that the appraiser is gonna list the pendings, and they're gonna call those pendings.
Mhm.
They have to do more research now, and they're gonna call it market trends,
Mhm.
okay? It's exactly what happened in my North Oxnard property, so the one on Pisco Lane.
Right. Right.
So they referred to the two that hit at 7. I was at 800, two listed at 7, about 300 square feet smaller,
Mhm.
right? And we had a bonus room that wasn't permitted, and that's really where I got hosed.
Right.
I lost about 35,000 because it wasn't permitted. But all that came up on the appraisal report. It referred to those different prices. It referred to the active properties that weren't even in escrow, just saying this is the market trend.
Mhm.
So they were tighter and tighter on that appraisal, and it came in $15,000 short. And then on this one, we had to compromise. My seller got an extra 4 over asking, but had to come down 10 than they expected. Because now I had one FHA buyer with 3.5% down,
Yeah.
not a 20% buyer, right?
Yeah.
So it went from multiple offers where you always had at least 20% to now you get one offer, it's FHA, you better play ball with them, right? Because if I overplayed that hand, now that house is still sitting on the market, or we sell it $25,000 less than that. Okay, does that make sense? So we already started jumping into the comps and some of those things, but what I typically do, if it helps you out as you're preparing with your CMA, is this one has about 7 sold properties. If you have a bunch of them, kind of all within the last 6 months or so, I'm gonna print every single one of them out, okay? Because there was one super low one at 468, and I'm gonna highlight that because I know most of the other agents that I'm competing against aren't gonna show that. And I'm gonna say, look, one sold in July of 2021, 1690 square feet, exact same track,
Yeah.
at 468,000. Now that was a special situation. So I got some details, talked to the agent. I think that one was some type of like a rent with the option to buy, something like that.
yeah.
So they sold it super low.
So then make sure that's why it's an outlier.
Right.
And you
It's-
need to know that so you can tell the appraiser.
so that you can tell the appraiser,
Yeah.
exactly. And luckily, since I got to the cash, all cash, we didn't have to deal with that. We got to overcome all that, okay? Then the other ones were all right around, so after our sale at 680, the next one was a model match, sold at 670. There was another agent in this office, sold it at 670. He was gonna start in the low 6s. He called me when we were pending, and I shared all the information with him. I said, look, we got like 6 or 7 offers that came in. We had all cash, we had 20%. He's like, are you serious? I said, yeah, 680. He said, okay. So now he was playing harder because he was at like 640 of his list price. He ended up going 670. So he still went 30,000 higher. Since then, I think there's been one other sale. No, I think that was the last one, 670. So still the highest to this day is at 680. The next one was 675 that sold right before us. Okay, so that gets in comp. So what I do though, depending on what the situation is I do 3 solds in most situations. 3 solds, 3 pending. Sometimes I'll list active, sometimes I won't. So if they're they're overpriced and it's just gonna distract
Gotcha.
my seller, I'm not even gonna list them,
Okay.
right? And they could bring it up and I'll
Other
say,
than
yeah,
that,
no,
you're
I
taking
saw
from
it.
the market to show, like,
You
a little
could.
bit.
So then I would print out and I'd have these. So when I have my folder, I always print my Flex Market Summary Report. I always print my 1-line report, my 1-line CMA report, black and white, no pictures, no nothing, because I'm going to keep them focused on the numbers and the facts. After we go through this, I'm going to ask them the question now through the eyes of a buyer, what do you expect that they'd be willing to pay for your home? And if you go through the right way and you tell the story the right way, then when they're coming through in pricing, they're going to be a lot more realistic than off base, right? If they're fighting you on this, then you need to do a better job. So one of the things I'll do is if I have all these in black and white here, I'm going to email it to myself as well
Mhm.
so that I can just click on the link. forward it over to them. Then we can pop it up and either just show it real time, right, through Moxie, which you already know, right?
You're gonna love it.
Exactly, through Moxie Market Report. I mean, there's so many through the listing presentation portion, everything. We're still learning Moxie, but it's a huge tool that we can use that shows it all real time. I'm telling you kind of the way that I've always done it, you know what I mean, where I've emailed it to myself and been able to click on it. So I'm gonna have that. I'm always gonna have the listing presentation, have the market summary report, okay? With the listing agreement, you gotta have the Century 21 Everest addendum, right? Have that with you. So the paperwork's there to take care of whether you're gonna actually ask them to sign it or not, or whether they're willing to sign it, I should say, you're always gonna have it on you. Even if they're telling you just to preview the house. Now, most of the times we could set it all by DocuSign, right? But sometimes people feel more comfortable if you go over the agreement with them in person, okay? And I'm always gonna start at 6%. I've heard other people say that that is an issue. I start at 6 because what I found to be the case is most people start at 5 and they're working their way down from 5, okay? I'm gonna start at 6, so if I'm working down from 6, I'm gonna end up over 5 more times than not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As well as it's gonna see it pre-printed at 6, so I'm gonna put a line through it, and they feel good that they're negotiating, and I say, okay, well, I typically charge 6%, but we can do it for 5.5%, right? And then cross that out, still get 3 on our side, 2.5 to the other side, or however, 2.5, 2.5, or however you wanna work it out, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so kind of jumping around a little bit, started with the pre-qual, jumped into some pricing, some other things that I wanted to make sure that we got into, getting into the question, which we've touched on, if your home isn't ready. For me, I'm gonna just share with you more times than not, when I'm asking questions, one of the questions when I get into the pricing is I'll ask them, so are you willing to fix anything else prior to us listing the home, right? And this is gonna come in the conversation about value versus pricing. Anybody know the difference or remember how to explain that? What's the difference between value and pricing?
Value is what you think the buyer's gonna pay for it. Pricing is where it's at. I don't know.
That's pretty good. So pricing is where it's listed, right? So, and then value is what you think a value is gonna pay, which is pretty good. That's a good explanation. So price versus value. And you want to be able to explain the difference between this, okay? So there's a bunch of just key things of what you're doing. So price is what price we list the home at, so what a seller wants for the home, okay? So we'll just say for that one, it was listed at $639 was the price, okay? Now the other agents all thought that it needed to be under $625 or you weren't going to get the activity. We got 7 offers at a $639 price. So would we say that that home was very desirable?
Yes.
So there's 2 ways to increase the desirability. So that's what value is. Desirability of a home to buyers. To increase the value, you do one of 2 things. You either drop the price or you add more benefits and features, okay?
Yeah.
So if you have 2 homes at the same price, but one has all the upgrades, one doesn't, the desirability or the value goes to the one with all the benefits. So the question you ask them when you go through the place, let me ask you, what price did you have in mind? Now they say 700,000. Say 700,000, that's great. How'd you come up with that number? Well, I know the market's going up. I know that homes are going like 100 over the last sales price. The last one's listed at 690. They went in 2 weeks, and I heard they got 690. So I'm pretty sure we can try 700,000. So did you realize that the other house is about 2,000 square foot, benefits and features, right? Versus 1,390 square feet. Okay. So what you want to start showing is you got to compare the 2 properties, right? You have to show, okay, this one had more square footage versus our square footage here, right? So they're like, well, won't it be just price per square foot? So it doesn't always work that way, all right? Price per square foot for this is going to be a lot higher than this one just based on square footage. More so is going to be on the benefits and features. Well, your home is beautiful. Your garage is completely redone, right? So we're going to be on the higher end of the spectrum. But if you look at the last model match, which at the time was right around like 622K, and that one was still bigger than us. That one was like 1,600 square feet, okay? So the best comp I could use, that was a recent sale, was 622 at about 1,600 square feet. So I had a feeling I could still go a little higher than that 622, which I did, right? Based on supply and demand. So desirability on value, the ways we do it when we talk about features, that's why we ask them the question when we're going through the pricing, is there anything else you plan to fix before selling the home? What do most sellers say? Nope. I want an as-is sale, right? That's typically what their response is. Well, that's great. We can do that. Now, I can share with you, can I share with you what my concern is? Yes. What's your concern? My concern is that because in its current state, you have a beautiful home, but this other home had more square footage with more benefits and more features than what we're at, and you want to sell as is, the only way we increase the value is what?
Drop the price?
We got to drop the price. And then we get into what's called our pricing strategy, okay? You guys remember the pricing strategy? So what do you recall the pricing strategy? You know the pricing strategy.
Do I?
You've done it.
Do I?
So based on showings, okay? So say we listed,
Price them high, watch them die? Is that my pricing
that's the
strategy?
price, that's the pricing strategy,
Can I tell you
right?
what I did on
That
the
sounds
on
like
the
Cobra
listing?
Kai, right?
Price them high, watch them die. Price them low, watch them go.
Is that what you did?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, I told her about chasing the rock down the hill, and I
Good.
said I would rather come in at a price that people go, oh my god, I can't believe they're selling it for this. This is a great value,
Right.
and drive it up, than to be chasing them down. And guess what? We got an offer over asking first weekend.
See? Well, and that's key.
The one that
It
you
is
have
key.
now.
Right now.
You ask them, so the old way used to be, what would you prefer to have? Multiple offers, right? Or we price high at 700K, and the buyers know it's overpriced
Price them low, watch
because
them go.
buyers are looking at Zestimates, they're seeing recent comps. They can see, access all the information, so they walk in. Do agents know when a home's overpriced? 100%. Agents that know what they're doing walk in like, well, this is overpriced, right? So what do we think? Do we think that we have any competition?
No.
So what would you prefer? No competition or lots of competition, right? When we talk about the 4 pillars, what's that second pillar? Market and expose, right?
Yeah.
We want maximum exposure, okay? 1, consult and advise. What's 3? Does anybody remember?
Advice?
You got consult and advise, market and expose.
Oh, negotiate terms.
Beautiful. Negotiate best terms, okay? And what's 4?
Get it done. I'm
Overview.
just kidding.
Yeah,
From the beginning to
oversee the transaction, okay?
Okay, I was close. Simplified.
So real quick, we'll ask the seller as we're going through. So we did our top, thank, acknowledge, and promise, right? Then we cast our vision, because that's what great leaders do. You want to tell them where they're going with the presentation. So we say, okay, first we're going to talk about your needs, your wants, and expectations. Secondly, we're going to talk about what I do to sell homes, my plan of action. Third, we're going to talk about the market, where it's been, where it's at, where it's heading. And we're going to come up with a price together that makes sense for everybody right now, okay? And if you're confident that I can sell your home, we're going to take care of some paperwork. Sound good? Great. Okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what do you believe an agent does to sell a home? What do you believe it's my job to do in terms of selling your home? You ask them the question, what do they say?
Put it on the internet.
They put it on the internet. What else do they say?
Open houses. Maybe.
Open houses, okay?
Wait
Put
for
it
people
on the
to
internet.
show up.
Yeah. Put the sign in the
Yeah, put the
backyard,
sign in the yard, walk
Sign in
away.
yard, put sign in yard, and then what? And then the last P, pray, right? So 3 P's. You put it on the internet, you put the sign in the yard, and then you pray. You pray that it sells. You sit and you wait. So what you're showing is the difference between what they believe most agents are versus what are you, right? This is a passive approach, right?
Yeah.
What are you?
Active.
You're active.
I'm not.
You're an active agent. You take action, right?
I am a bully.
You're a bully. Okay, but you door knock every day. You're prospecting every day. You're calling your sphere every day. We don't sit and wait. We call the top agents as we talk about our plan of action. We're going to talk to the top 15, 20 agents in the area that work with buyers, right? As soon as I get a listing, I'm going to call Laura and say, hey, Laura, do you have any buyers that are thinking about buying this property right now? Okay? I'm going to call other top agents in the area. And every single day, I'm going to prospect to try to get your home sold. And what's great is every Monday we're going to talk. This is future pacing. Every Monday we're going to talk, and we're going to talk about what's happening on the market. We're going to say how many showings have you had. So if it's no showings, first week of the market, no showings, what does that mean?
It's your
Go high.
bye.
Overpriced, right? Equals overpriced. By how much?
5 to 7%.
Yeah, we'll say 7 to 10% with no showings. That's good.
I was close.
No, but really this would be no showings in probably 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay? Not just the first week, especially with things slowing down. Okay? So we'd say about in 3 weeks, you're overpriced by about 7 to 10%. Now, if we have, let's just say 2 to 3 showings per week, no offers. Now where are we at?
5 to 7.
5 to 7. I love it.
That's my
Okay, 2
answer
to
for
3.
everything.
No offers. Okay. Now let's say we have, we're just saying 4+, and that could be 10+ showings, right? It could be 20 showings and no offers. What does that mean?
3%.
Okay, 1 to 3%.
You see the things I remember? The weirdest thing. You can ask
So-
me tap 1,000 times, won't tell
Right.
you.
But the great thing is every time we have a conversation, we're going to talk about that. Now, if we're looking on that Flex Market Summary Report between that 600,000, so between 6 and 9, 15 homes sold in Camarillo between 6 and 900,000, 15 last month. Okay? Pending, 12 went in escrow. Active, there were 23 active. And then new listings between 6 and 700,000, there were 11 new listings. So if you have 23 active and there's 15 that actually closed and 12 that went into escrow, that's about half of them. So we need to be in the top half in terms of pricing. Does that make sense? So what we want to show them is every Monday, we want to call them up and say, this one went pending, this one went pending, this one went pending. Okay? These went pending. Why did these go in escrows and ours didn't? Because we're overpriced. Okay? So if you want to be in that top half, we need to look appealing in terms of pricing. Remember, list price doesn't always equal sold price, but we got to get to the sweet spot. When we get to the sweet spot, we will increase our showings, which will lead to us getting offers. Okay? But if we have a whole bunch of showings and nobody's writing, we're still overpriced. So we got to drop it. So every conversation, every time you talk to them on Monday, between 3 and 5, this also future paces them so they're not calling you every single day. What are you doing? Has it sold? Do we have any offers? Do we have this? Do we have that? What's going on? What's going on? Well, because we didn't future pace them properly in the listing presentation. We didn't talk about communication properly, right? We didn't ask them, what are your expectations in terms of communication? Well, we're going to do, for my sellers, every Monday, we're going to speak between 3 and 5, and I'm going to give you an update on how many showings we had, what happened at the open house, and where we're going from there, okay? So this is how you future pace them. We already talked just briefly, consultant advice, so then I'm going to say, seller, what do you think we do? Some will say you work open houses, you put it in the paper, you put it on the MLS, and then you get offers. You guys don't do much, and you get paid all this money. That's what they think, right? So what we tell them is, no, actually, these are the things we do. Can I share with you what top agents do to sell their homes and make sure they net the most to sell their home? Yes. Well, one, my job is to consult and advise you. It's to take the guesswork out of real estate, okay? It's one of the top 5 most stressful things you're ever going to be a part of. So, you know, my goal is to make sure that you have somebody strong in your corner that's going to help you throughout the transaction to take the stress from you or lower that stress. Number 2, my job is to market and expose the property at the highest level possible, not to just sit and wait. But the good news is you're with Century 21, the most recognized name brand in real estate for the last 40 years. Just like Coca-Cola, you see Coca-Cola, you know what a Coca-Cola product is, right? You see a Century 21 sign, you know that home's for sale. It's a recognized name brand. So, and then I'll ask them, where do you think most cash investors come from? You know, foreign cash investors. They'll say China. Say we have over 1,000 offices in China. You list your home with us, it's translated into 18 different languages and on every single continent. and in 4 different currencies, okay? Is that what you're looking for when you sell your home? That type of global exposure, right? And we'll ask them that question. They'll say, yeah, that sounds great. Then third, my job's to negotiate the best terms. Negotiate the best terms in terms of price up front, and then we vet our buyers, and we have a specific process through that. Secondly, after that, sorry, can I help you? Okay, I think Karen's back there, but I'm not sure. Do you mind? Thank you. You got a recording, so you're not gonna miss the best part coming up. Okay, so negotiate the best terms. What are the 2 things we're negotiating? The 2 big hurdles. Well, price up front, and then what are the 2 things through the transaction?
Commission?
No, appraisal,
Appraisal.
and repairs. And repairs, okay? Appraisal and repairs. Well, again, who do you want in your corner? I love negotiating, and this is about having a strong negotiator. It's not just up front and getting the highest offer. It's also about making sure that we get you the best terms possible and protect. I have a duty and a stewardship to protect your hard-earned equity, okay? Number 4, is to oversee the transaction. Did you realize that in this market, on a national level, each home has to potentially sell twice? Did you also realize that typically about 150 phone calls take place from right now till a successful close in the transaction? Okay, so now again, I'm future pacing, then it may fall out of escrow, and that's okay. And I may have to sell it twice, but I only get paid once. Once you get all the terms that you're looking for at the end of the closed transaction, okay? So those are the 4 things. After I share that, then what do I say?
Does that sound good to you?
Does it sound good to you? Sign here. Do you like any of these specific things? Do you find value? These are the value. This is a value close. They say, I really like what you said about market and exposure. I really think maximum exposure is important, right? And that's great. So this is big, especially if you're competing against another company that isn't a recognizable name brand, that isn't international, right? You have strong independent companies that are here locally, but if somebody's coming from another country and they see that sign, they're not going to know what that pink sign is. No offense to our friends that have pink signs, right? Or any other sign that's out there, right?
Second to realize who the pink sign.
No, it's all good. No, it's good. But you get what I'm saying, right? You get the point of that. So we want to show them the strength in terms of what you bring in. Okay? No offense there, you know who I'm talking about if you ever see this video with the big sign. So again, all right, so we talked about those 4 here, talked about the pricing strategy. This is all future pacing. Do you see why it gets easier for them to price it
Yeah.
appropriately when you go through this the right way? Okay. In terms of talking about the market, who wants to share with where the market was at, where it's at now, and where it's heading? Or how you explain it with the seller. I want you guys to practice role playing a little bit, and then we can jump into it a little bit more. Does anybody need to take a picture of this before I erase
Sure,
it?
hold on.
Okay.
Like I'm taking diligent notes over here.
We got it recorded too.
I know. Done.
Is this helpful at all, guys?
Yes. very.
Not yet.
Oh, well, you gotta borrow somebody else's.
Okay.
It's gone. All right. So with the market, when was the bottom of the market?
Pre-COVID.
Okay.
Like 12 to 15 years ago.
Okay. So just what year
2008.
roughly? What's it say? And 12 to 15 is pretty
Oh,
accurate. So what
2008.
year was that? 2008.
2008, yeah.
Everybody says the market crashed in 2008. Okay.
I don't think I have your numbers saved,
Okay,
Dana, so
805.
hold please. Let's get.
Okay.
So it was probably 2008 was when it crashed, but really the lowest was probably like 2009, 10.
Okay.
Because-
So 2008, I'll just give it away. 2008 to 2011 was the bottom of the market. Okay, they call that the trough. So the very bottom of the market was 2008 to 2011. So 08 to 11. Why did I draw the graph like this?
Because that's economics.
Yeah,
The cycle.
it's a cycle. It's cyclical. It's never as low as the last low, and it's always higher than the last high. Okay, on average, you have about a 3% appreciation with all the up and down for the long-term investment. Okay, so know that you're always going to have about a 3% if you rule out all the highs and the lows, you're always going to appreciate by 3%. That's why real estate is a sound long-term investment. Okay, now peak of the market was right around 2004 to 6. Okay? Before the crash. That's what they always say, that 08 boom, the 08 crash. Typically you have 5 to 7 years of growth and 5 to 7 years of decline. Okay? Now we had the end of the growth phase, 2011. What year are we in now?
2022.
2022. Okay? So I'm going to put us right about here.
Yep.
2022. How many years is that since 2011?
4.
4?
Oh wait, 11, sorry.
Yeah,
11.
that's okay. It's 11 years, right?
Yeah.
But we are 4 years past, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
4 years past that 7-year mark. So really it should have been about 2018.
Yeah, COVID changed everything up.
Yeah, we had COVID, we had low interest rates,
Low interest.
we had all these things that were still driving the prices to, and really, I mean, it doesn't look this pretty. It went like this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And now we got whatever's happening now in terms of adjustment. So our adjustment's probably more down like that. Now, we had this crazy spike from 2018 to 2022. Now, as you're explaining that in terms of where the market was and where it is and where it's heading, is that's the end of the growth phase. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the next phase is called what?
Decline.
Decline.
Or hyper supply. Okay?
Nice
Which
way to
is
say it.
demand.
I like it.
So hyper supply is right after the end of the growth phase. This is when all the sellers are like, oh shoot,
We
missed
missed the
it.
boat.
we missed it. Let's all get our house on the market. Then what happens?
They stay on the market.
Longer days on market. Okay, so you're gonna see increase of that. Price reductions. So now it's starting to shift. Still a seller's market. And I know that because typically a neutral market is 6 months inventory. So for Camera, we're at a 1.75 absorption rate for last month. And what that means is we got about 2 months inventory. Well, from July 2021, the year before, we were at 1.17. So that's a 49% increase in inventory. It's pretty big, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost doubled, okay? Then you got from the average list price, last year was $1,050,000. This year it's at $977 for the average list. So now we're down 7% list price. Okay, so sellers are starting to get smarter, listing it at a more appropriate price. Median list price is actually a little higher. Last year was at $799, now it's at $824. So it's at a 3.25% increase for the median list price. And that's the one right in the middle. So if you had 11 homes, it'd be at 5 or 6, right about there, would be your median. So some higher, some lower, but that's still at about a $824, $950 median sales price. Or list price, I should say. Okay. Then after that, then we got median sale price. Average sale price is at $935. So the average is $935K, which is up 9.42%, which is really good. So it's up, but the median is down. 752, 500. So it's down 0.33%. So down less than 1%, but dropping for the median price. Average days on the market now is at 26. So these are numbers that you guys all want to know. And then the median days on market is 21. Okay, so a 13% increase for days on market
Wow,
and 110% increase
that's crazy.
for the median days on market. It was at 10 and went up to 21. It was at 23 and now it's at 26. So your time is getting longer. This is just in 1 month. It's actually, it's a year over year is what they look at for the increase. But you're already seeing the trend starting to show. You can use these charts here that shows you list price sold to list ratio. So it shows it at 102%. The highest was at 106. in March of 2022, and then it drops down to 98% in July of 2022. So now we're at a 98%.
Of list price.
Yep. List price to sold price. Where we got as high as 106. You guys got something or?
I was just where you print it out.
Okay.
It's all
Yeah,
good.
Flex Market
It's
Center
all good.
report.
Yeah.
I think that's my
She's
only
asking.
one, but yeah, no, that's good. So this is something, no, you can hold on to that. So this is something that, thank you, that will, that we use to show market trends, to show where the market was and where it's heading, right? And then we show it to them. Now it's not us just saying, hey, drop the price, drop the price, drop the price. We're showing them the trend. We're showing them that rock photo of how to get in front of, because as you see, we're coming to that growth phase. This is the direction we're heading. Even if it levels out, even if those rates drop some, affordability's been pressed. The only thing that kept buyers buying was those super low interest rates. So then everything was just getting swallowed up, but that couldn't continue indefinitely. So now we got that hyper supply as the next phase, okay? Then after that and continuing is the decline, and then it'll bottom out at some point. But more than anything, we're gonna normalize. So some of the quotes I've heard is we should be getting back to 2018 prices, ironically. And that was supposed to be the end of the 5 to 7 year growth, okay? So even if it comes back down to 2018, you're still good, right? Also, another important stat to know is there was a 43% appreciation nationally over the last 2 years.
So even if you're down, you're still up, like.
Well, even if you're at 37% right now,
You're still up.
you're up a lot,
Yeah.
right? In California, it was over 100,000 increase. Exactly. So beat it before it drops too much.
Yeah.
Because once you get past that, once you get past those 2018 prices, now people are going to be hurting, especially if they bought, you know, much more recent than 2018.
You can
The
use
prices
it
go to
for
it.
buyers too.
Big time.
Cause
So
then
how-
when
how
they think
could-
about buying, you know, purchasing, they're like, they think it's at the floor. Like
Right.
when it's at 2018 and you're like, not yet.
Shoot, I just realized we're already at 10 o'clock here,
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm gonna wrap it up at least on the Zoom here. We can keep this going for like 5-10 more minutes, just with some last closing things. We're gonna have to continue on another one, and probably more just on the role play. We'll practice these things. So looks like I think we're already out on this one. Cool. Okay. Does this all make sense? I wanted to make sure that we really spent some time talking about the market. Do you feel that you can explain the market to people so that they can understand on the buying and the selling side? So what would be the benefit to buying? Because you brought that you can use this to buy. Why would a buyer want to purchase if they think the market's coming down and they can get it for a lower price?
Because we don't know
Because the
what
interest
rates are gonna
could
be.
keep going up.
Yeah.
True. Rates
So
can go
you
up.
can buy yourself
You're gonna
out.
be paying the same price one way or another, my friend.
Well, when I really learned this was buying in Camarillo. We were lucky enough to be able to buy in about 2017. And at that time, we thought that was the end of the growth phase, right? We're like, 573, oh my gosh, almost 600,000 for Central Camarillo, right? But we truly thought, I was like, I don't see it getting higher than 600 to 700. And then sure enough,
Yeah.
no, it's almost 9.
Yeah.
It sold 1,500 square feet on Dunnigan.
Yeah.
Sold at $881,000. 1,500 square feet
Oh my
on
God.
Dunnigan Street, right? Which I remember on Wilcox, I had one listed at 700,000. I remember, a good friend of mine, Severio, would be like, no home in this neighborhood ever sells for 700,000, right? Well, no, they don't sell for 7. Now they're selling for 8, almost 900,000, right?
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So we've seen some crazy increases. So the whole point is when you understand that. The reason why I wanted to bring that story, it was so tough to buy in Camarillo for a detached home and anywhere in Camarillo, especially in that neighborhood, that it was like, you seriously, it was like winning the lotto. I know there's some kind of flying around. So with your buyers, when they're in position to strike, they're ready, they can handle the payment and it fits what they want, especially if it's in a desirable neighborhood, you gotta jump on it.
That's it.
While other people are hesitating, now, like there was one on Roland I know Leslie had listed and she sent an email that she dropped the price. It's probably already sold, I'm guessing, but they dropped it to $775,
Yeah.
1,800 square feet. That's a steal
It is.
in comparison to what we saw for the last 2
Yeah,
years.
when she dropped it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but again, we should be jumping on that. Who's calling their client? and saying, hey, there's a property on Roland for $775. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, did anybody call?
I
didn't call anybody. Well, you got somebody to call. Call your boyfriend. Say, hey.
I do tell him
This
all the
one's at
time. There's a
775.
4-bedroom for $775. Go to freaking lender.
No, but hey,
We're about to be able to
this is
buy.
a deal of all deals. Who do you know?
I do
All I'm
tell
saying
him.
is call. You're right, but call with that urgency, right? Call with that and say, hey, I gotta get out. We gotta get out there and check some places out because now you can buy it in Arneal Ranch in these other neighborhoods that are very desirable that we couldn't. It was almost impossible. No matter how bad you wanted it, no matter how much money you had down, you were still coming in second and third and fourth place.
Yeah, the buyers I have, they're like, they want to offer super low.
Right.
And then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, it hasn't hit the floor yet. If
Right.
you wait, rates are going to be up.
Yeah.
And then you're going to miss that cycle that goes back up.
Yeah.
I'm like, hop on.
Exactly.
Get on it. I mean, you can afford it.
As long as you can
Stop.
handle the payment.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
key. And then you show them in terms of cyclical, say, look, I know you're going to have, and this is where you future pace them. I know you're going to have a lot of people telling you, oh, the market's going to crash. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Can you handle the payment?
Yeah.
Is it the house you want in the neighborhood you want? You're buying this house to have a home so that you know where you're going to be living for the next 20 to 30 years, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason we're looking, right? Yes. Okay, we can handle it. Let's strike now. Were we able to do this 6 months or a year ago? No.
Heck no.
We wouldn't. Nobody would consider our FHA. Nobody would consider our down payment assistance. So right now, those are the buyers you want to work with. More people can buy right now, even though it seems more challenging. So, and if your buyers are just giving you static and they're not cooperating, 2 reality talks. After the second, typically you cut them off, or you don't even have to cut them off and let them know you cut them off, right? You don't need to tell them that, but start focusing on other buyers.
Yeah.
Start focusing on people who want to win, who actually want to get a home right now, but you got to find other buyers. Otherwise, you're just going to be frustrated.
Yeah.
So that's typically what I'm doing is I'm always looking for new buyers and sellers, and as I'm bringing them in, I stick with the ones that are most motivated that are looking, but I keep adding to that pipeline. Okay, well, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys. Appreciate you coming in. Any other final questions or thoughts? You guys good? Okay, there's that coaching call. So hop on.